Hi everyone, and welcome to the first of these videos which I'm making which is going to cover all the aspects within the pages of the Gospel of Mark. Now, I've done some of these before for Judges and Joshua, which you can see on our YouTube channel. But on this one, I'll really be looking at the pages. These videos might be a bit longer, and we go sort of panel by panel to look at the things that I've drawn and some of the reasons why and some of the historical aspects involved, and sometimes compositional things and things like that. Now, what we'll do is bring up the first page. Okay, so this is actually from the fourth page of the Gospel of Mark. And starting here is a good example. It's some of the pages which were previewed on our Kickstarter page, and so many of you might have seen them before. So let's have a look. Now, this first one is obviously a page where it's actually just Jesus approaching. So it's as John the Baptist is baptizing in the Jordan River, and then and he's teaching, and then Jesus arrives. Now, these people in the image, they've been in previous panels. This guy on this side has a cloak with some snakes on it, a bit like, and it's the emblem of the Dan tribe. He is an Israelite man. He's got curly hair and stuff like that. On this side, we've got some sort of soldier. Again, not a Roman soldier, so sort of either a mercenary or a guard of some kind. And then some other Israelite people, male and female. And Jesus coming through the crowd, and in the background are the hills of Jordan, and it's around the Jericho area. So we've used images from that area to paint the real place, and these are actually reused from the Joshua book and the Judges book, because there are lots of events that actually happen crossing the Jordan at Jericho, and so it's really good because we've been able to reuse them. So that's great for us, but also it's good we intentionally reuse them rather than like redraw them, so that people think, oh, this is the same hills, and it's not just reusing the same image, it's actually the same place. So it reinforces the idea, oh, this happened at the same place. And the place where John is baptizing is called Bethabara, and it means so Beth, if you remember from like Bethel, means house of God, Bethel. But Bethlehem is house of bread, and Bethabara is like house of crossing, and it's sort of like place of crossing. It can mean that as well, and it's the place of crossing, and we believe it's called that because it's where Israel crossed over. From like everybody would probably cross over this particular ford, but Israel in particular, when Joshua leads them across the Jordan and parts the Jordan River, when the army crosses over for the start of the conquest. We'll come back to that in just a moment as well. Now, this image, if you're very observant, you might notice is actually slightly different than it appeared in the Joshua one, because Jesus's robe is short. So originally I drew him with a long robe, same as we would see all the time in representations of Jesus. But in researching it, I found that in that time men didn't wear ankle length robes, but women did. It's like a feminine thing to do. So I've shortened that down, and thinking about it, I guess I could probably, there you go, show you how I did that. So I just sort of painted straight over the top with how it should be. Now let's move on to the next page, sorry. And this is the next page. I'll zoom in on the first panel now. So Jesus is approaching. And you can see that he's not taller than other people or anything like that. I didn't want to make him stand out because of the passage there's in the Bible about how nothing particularly marked him out as particularly attractive in the human sense. So again, we've got these people, same people, and so this guy's an Israelite, as I said. This guy's more of a Roman kind of a guy. He's wearing much more Roman styles. He's got short hair and he's no beard, even though he's probably old enough to have a beard. So there's different types of people, and the women. Now I wanted to show. You see two women here. They're wearing clothes, and this type I used was so this is my Pinterest page, and what I've started doing with the Gospel of Mark is putting all my research into like pinboards, so we've got loads here, the temple, the Jerusalem, all that, and the one that I'm bringing you to is this one, and it's called this because that's the name of the place. Europus is a synagogue from around 200 AD, so it's a tiny bit later, but it's got images of people from roughly the time, Jewish people from near the area, and let's just bring up, and so here we go is the lady's outfit which I've used, and you can see another lady here wearing the same, and then a different type of outfit here. So this is the outfit I've used, and the reason I've used these, even though they're later, is because they're some of the closest that we have. And when I compared it with the style of dress in these are from Syria from 2200 AD, there's basically the same. So the men particularly is the same as other images from Egypt, so the other side of Israel, at the same time. So these images are from graves. They're grave paintings of the people who died, but they're from the time of the Bible and the New Testament, and they're in Egypt. So I reasoned that they're both sides of Israel, and sort of at the time and after, people seem to be basically wearing the same stuff. So I've used that in the comic. Okay, and we've got John the Baptist here. John the Baptist wearing his camel hair clothes, and he's got long hair, being a Nazarite. He doesn't cut his hair, long beard, long moustache, very scruffy, and he's dirty as well, you can see here, and he's in the Jordan. He's baptizing people. You can also see there's a big crowd behind, because it says in one of the verses all Judea were there, and I don't like to cop out and just have a few people represent a nation. I tried to show that there's a big crowd, and in some later pages you can really see the size of the crowd because they're drawn from far away. Okay, so let's see. The only other thing is a compositional thing here. Often it's good if you have a point of focus to use, there's two things in this, the rule of thirds. So you divide up an image into three horizontally, and like this, a third, and then sort of vertically as well. So you can see that Jesus is roughly on this sort of axis of the thirds, The other thing is obviously John's looking at him, which draws your eye to him. But the other thing is that these hills are drawn to kind of point at that point of focus as well, and the bushes kind of lean and point at him as well. So it's things like that you use to just try and draw the eye. These rocks are aligned in a way to kind of point you in that direction as well, to draw the eye to what you want to be your point of focus. Okay, let's move on. Here John greets Jesus and speaks to him, and this is where we're taking other gospel accounts for what happened and then drawing the events as they happened, using all four, not just Mark. So in Mark, as you can see, there's no text here. Here, all these panels actually up and down into here don't have any text. But if we look at this one as well, it's more helpful. So we know that when Jesus arrives, John says, will you be baptized by me? I should be baptized by you. And Jesus, speaks to him, and then we go to the next panel, and he says, we must fulfill all righteousness. And we know that this happens because of the other Gospels, but it's not in Mark. But the pictures are still there. So that's the way that we do things in the Bible comic, is by using the different Gospel accounts to compare them, we work out the sequence of events. And if it's the same scene like it is here, then we show these things, and then Jesus goes into the water. Now here, I've not brought it up, but this picture is a parallel of where the people step. When Joshua is conquering the land, they step into the water, and then the river parts. Now, let me see if I can just find that for you. Okay, so let's get rid of that. This is from the book of Joshua. Yeah, and this is where the priests step into the Jordan and the river parts. And so what we've done is actually, I think we even used the same image to just show that parallel, because it's the same place where they step into the water, and just wanted to show that parallel. Then John is baptizing, and looking at the research and stuff about baptism and mikvahs and all that stuff, it's a bit difficult because so the Jewish people have a tradition of mikvah, and then there's the traditions that they have now, whether they're actually historical or not, or so Jewish people sort of believe perhaps that he would go into the water and kind of dunk himself, but really I think that it was John who did it. And so as modern day kind of Baptists and people who do water baptism, I believe that John helped. But even so that's what's implied here. But in this, because it's not a film and it's a comic, and the motion is implied, but it's kind of, it's implied that he's baptized him, as we would have it as in Christian world. But potentially Jesus did dunk himself. Either way, John's there to assist and baptize him. In this image, in the background, again using the rule of thirds to kind of help it be a bit more noticeable, because the third would be about here. We have this in the back. So that is a pile of stones, and it's the pile of stones which Joshua places there when they cross the river in the book of Joshua. I have remembered to bring that up, so let's see. Yeah, so this is from the book of Joshua, and you can see the hills I was talking about earlier where they've crossed. It's the same ones, and he's making the stones that, and there's the river Jordan's all dry. Anyway, he's making this pile of stones which commemorate the crossing out of 12 stones. And the reason we got it there as well is because in the story of like John the Baptist, he says to the Pharisees, you think so amazing God could raise from these stones children of Israel. And so many commentators believe, I think it makes a lot of sense, that he's like pointing at these stones. And in fact, on page 3 or something, the one before the one we started with, he is like pointing back at those stones as he's sort of speaking. But again, in Mark, he doesn't actually say that. Like, it's not recorded that he says that. So he is speaking and he is sort of saying that, but it's not shown. And then this last panel is a beat. It's got nothing exactly happening in it, no text. It just is a slight introduction to the fact that the Holy Spirit is descending, and throughout the Word for Word Bible comic, this colour, the teal colour, is representative of the Holy Spirit, and also like light and things like that, and also this pink colour we often use for prophetic images. So it begins to start to descend. And then what we'll do, we'll go to the next page. I'll probably come back. And then this is the final page of this scene where John is baptizing Jesus. And again, you've got the text, and it says about the Spirit descending like a dove. Now, I didn't want to have like so many cartoons and like even some sort of films and stuff where like they get like a real dove that just kind of flies down and then sits on his shoulder or something. I don't really think that is what happened. I don't think a real dove came, and I think it was like a dove, i.e. like flying down. And but nevertheless, we use the dove motif, and so the idea is here, it's sort of something big, but also that you might be able to see that there's like a dove shape sort of in the whole thing. So this is the tail, and then 2 spread wings going out like that, and then there's not really the head properly defined, so that takes away from it a little bit. And then also, like overlaid on top of it, is another dove shape, which is a dove facing downwards, where this is the tail, and these are the 2 wings, and then the head's kind of down here. But the words are over the top, so again, it sort of looks a bit like a dove, but it's not explicitly a dove because it's just the Spirit coming down. And as I say, this colour represents the Spirit, and also represents like things that people, the things that are there that people can't necessarily see. So some people can see these spiritual things, like prophets and stuff, and other people can't. Now, in this one, it's implied that these people can sense something because they're kind of looking up. Also, the colour I was talking about is here in Jesus's eye, and then the other comics, again, it's a motif that goes through the whole series, where this colour is used in people's eyes when they are filled with the Spirit, or when they can see something prophetic. So he's got it there, and also John's got a glint of it in his eyes as well, because in John's Gospel, John the Baptist talks about the fact that the Holy Spirit descended, and he saw it because he says that God said to him when he sees the Spirit descend on somebody, he'll know that they're the Messiah. Now, last thing about this page is the other motif that goes through the whole comic series is spiritual things can go outside of the panels. Now it happens a lot in comics that things bust out of the panels, right? So you can see here that's happening, and so in Marvel, whatever, often there's an action scene and fists and feet and kicks and stuff fly out of the panel and all that. But what we do is where things are like natural, they actually are inside the panel, and then supernatural things can go outside of the panel. So here you can see that this motif's been used throughout. So as the angel of the Lord appears in Judges, for example, when he's talking to Gideon, although he kind of appears as a man to Gideon, sort of, to talk to him, the angel of the Lord goes out of the panel. Again, maybe it'd be helpful if I bring that up. Okay, yeah, here it is. So we can see here the angel of the Lord. And you can see here that he's going out of the panel because, and the point of it is, it happens a few times, happens here, he's sort of out of the panel there. The idea is that it shows that the angel and God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, they're not limited to sort of 3 dimensions, and the boxes in the comic, which is normal for comics, it represents what's the limitations of the real world, so they don't come out of the panel normally, but the angel does. So I've used this in a few different ways. In Joshua, he even reaches through into different panels and stuff like that, but you get the idea from this one, so I'll shut that down. Now the only thing to do now, I think, is to go back to the previous panel page 5, and show, because this is the Mark one, and for this page, for example, only has these words on it. But if we compare with I did a comparison with this page with the Matthew Gospel, so I'll just bring that up. Okay, so this is the Matthew version. So same page with this one. So you can see the benefit to us of doing it this way. Like, it's a long-term gain, short-term loss thing, because we have to draw the panels now for the book of Mark, but ultimately when we do the Matthew one, we won't have to redraw the page because we can just reuse it. So let's show you. So you can see the page is the same, but instead of just having a text here, in Matthew's account, but John would have hindered him, saying, and then so John speaks, Jesus replies, and then says the must fulfill all righteousness thing, and then John baptizes him, and so that shows you, and he allowed him, it shows you how the text from the other gospel were used on the same page, but also how one gospel, the different gospel accounts inform the full account of Mark that we're representing, so that we try to represent it well, because, so for example, I've watched a bunch of films of the Gospels to try and just get other people's ideas of the events and stuff like that, and what you notice is that so there's a few, and one of them, for example, is the one that's based on John's Gospel, and there are scenes where people say stuff, and if you only look at John's Gospel, like, totally seems fine and seems normal to the text, that's the way it went down. But when you compare it with the other text, you're like, oh, I didn't realise that when he says this thing, they're outside. What's the example? So the example is when Peter in the Last Supper, in John's Gospel, it seems like they're having the Last Supper, and then Peter says, oh, I'll never betray you. And then Jesus says, oh, before the cock crows, blah, 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 right? And in John's Gospel, it's a straight run on from all the conversation at the table, but it doesn't say that they have moved or anything's happened. But in the other Gospels, that they had the Last Supper, and then they went outside and they walked around and they went somewhere. And then while they were there, Peter says, I'll never betray you. And Jesus says, you will. Now, because it's implied, in a sense, in John's Gospel, or it seems that it happens at the Last Supper, but it doesn't, because you look at the other accounts, you can see, they've gone outside, they've had a conversation, and they said it. And so I noticed that in the films, they haven't picked that up, so they've got it happening like in the wrong place, or in the wrong circumstances, or the people who are in different scenes are there or not there, or they should be there. And so, we really want it to be obviously faithful to the text, but also faithful to all four Gospels at once. And so, so as it's gone through, in all sorts of places, we've had to include stuff that happens in the other Gospels, or like people saying things. Now, we don't add the text, as you saw, to Mark's Gospel. We don't change it, we keep it the same. It doesn't add any words, but the idea is that you can see that they're talking to each other, and although you don't have the words, that's because in Matthew's Gospel it says that happened. Anyway, so there you go. I think that will wrap it up. We've looked at all the different elements, compared, what the way each one is, the way it's designed, some of the compositional things. We talked a little bit about costume and stuff. That's something, maybe we'll touch on more in future videos. Character designs, and why people look the way they look, and stuff like that. I hope you'll stay with us and check out more of these. Now, the idea is that we'll be placing these on Patreon, and people will see them there. They will be, for the time being, exclusive for Patreon backers, and then maybe in a year's time, when the book actually gets released, or after it gets released, we release those videos then. But people who are on Patreon will be getting it ahead of time and be able to see these pages before anyone else, and also get all these insights before anyone else. So if you want to be a real supporter of the project, obviously financially, but also, just see what's going on and be able to comment, during the process. So if you watch this and you had any comments or arguments, different points of view, you'd be able to raise them if you're a patron on the Patreon. So I hope that inspires you, and I hope you found this interesting. And so thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to share it with your friends and tell everybody about the Word for Word Bible comic at wordforwordbiblecomic.com. Cheers, bye.